Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do a quick video on how to turn this Frankenstein gas can over here into a Frankenfine gas can like that guy with the vent. So we're going to be putting one of those in one of these. It's important to say before we get started on any of this that your safety is your own problem. These are gas cans. Don't go doing anything stupid with them. I can't be responsible for your actions. My videos are generally more for entertainment, maybe some education anyway, but this one for sure is for entertainment. Don't take anything I do here at face value. Do your own research. Make sure you're doing everything the safe way. And of course you should follow all local, state, or federal laws wherever you are at. So what we have here is a good old Blitz brand 5-gallon gas can from probably about 2009, I think. I think somewhere around 2006. The US government decided that as grown adults we're too stupid to understand how to pour gas out of a can, and mandated that those vents be removed and that they be replaced with these self-venting nozzles. If you've used one of these, you know that these nozzles are absolutely terrible. It'll take you about 100 years to drain one of these cans without a vent on it. And if you're completely unfamiliar with the whole idea of what's going on here, the reason you put a vent on it is because as you're pouring gas out of this, the volume that you're losing in gasoline needs to be replaced by air, otherwise it'll gulp, 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 gulp. So they have those vents on them as a makeup valve to be able to dump these. And these self-venting nozzles are designed to have that makeup air come in like through the middle of the tip. And you can see the little kind of raceway there inside it where that's supposed to happen, that little square down at the bottom, that's where it's supposed to vent. But really all these things do is just change the gulping from at the end to internally. So these things are just horrible, and pretty much everybody knows it. And even worse yet, since that's a self-venting nozzle, you can't regulate the flow when this can is really full the way you can with an old school nozzle. So when these cans are really full, what you would do is you would tip that out and put it in your tank, and then you would open the vent. Well, since this thing vents itself, that doesn't work nearly as well. So in my opinion, these actually end up causing more fuel spills than the old school ones. We're going to show you how to fix that today. And if you guys stick around at the end of the video, I'll tell you a short story about Blitz fuel cans and why you can't buy them anymore. And it's a completely stupid story. It goes right along with the theme of everything we're doing here, that people are too stupid for their own good. So says the US government anyway. So we're going to begin this story where it began for me. I bought one of these easy pour spout replacements 4 or 5 years ago at this point. Actually I bought two because, as you can see, I have two cans. Expressly because they include that 1/2-inch vent kit. And I actually did have a broken spout on one of the cans I just showed you. Even though they say they fit Blitz gas cans, they really don't. There wasn't anything that I could do to these things to prevent them from leaking gas. I tried my own O-rings, I tried double O-rings, I tried tightening them with wrenches, everything else, they all leaked. So for my uses, this thing's pretty much a waste of money, and I think these are like 10 bucks or so. And the only redeeming feature that they came with are those little vent caps. Well, it turns out you can buy a whole bag of those vent caps on eBay or Amazon. I think that's a bag of like 5 of them that I think I paid 5 or 6 bucks for. The only thing that sort of sucks about these is at least the ones I bought didn't come with any kind of installation instructions. Hilariously, the Easy Pour kit did. So these are the instructions from the Easy Pour kit. And basically the only thing we really need to get out of this is that it's telling you to use a 1/2-inch hole to install it. It also tells you to use a paddle bit, which we're not going to do, and I didn't do on the other one I installed. And I'm also going to undersize the hole by probably 2 sizes in the index, because I'd rather drill a hole too small than too big, because we can always make it bigger later if it doesn't fit very well. And to do that, I'm going to use my trusty pneumatic drill here. If you're unfamiliar with these, this is a drill that runs on compressed air. It doesn't run on electricity, so there's zero opportunity, or I would say very, very low opportunity for one of these to generate any sparks. And as an aside, these things are just nice to have outside of, potentially dangerous things. Like, I'm positive this isn't rated to be explosion proof. It's just a better bet versus an electric drill. These are actually just much smaller than regular drills, which is why I happen to own one. That's also why I put this 90-degree adapter on it, and this 180-degree swivel, and that super flexible hose whip. And these are also not very expensive. This one's an Amazon one. I think it was like maybe 30 bucks. You can get them at Harbor Freight for about the same price. One thing I would suggest is this one is reversible, so you can go forward or backward. The really, really cheap ones, or some really, really old ones, only go forward. You have to manually reverse them. So FYI, these are not very expensive. It just looks one of those things that might look fancy to you if you don't know them, but really isn't. I'll be using my air drill. You can use whatever you have, but just as an extra layer of safety, I'm going to do that. I'm I'm also going to be doing this outside, just again, the extra level of safety, and I'll have my fire extinguisher with me. And as you can imagine, a fuel can, you know, this can that we're going to be working on, I've had empty for, I think, like 9 months now, and I've actually had the top cracked loose on it, and it still does smell like fuel vapor, so we want to be careful. And here we are outside with everything we need. I've got a 1/8" drill bit set up for our pilot hole, and I think this is like a 15-30 seconds drill bit. I think it's 2 sizes under the size of this guy, and it does look like we probably will end up taking that out to 1/2 inch, but again, we can start small, we can always get bigger. It's harder to add the plastic back. The first thing you're going to need to do on the can itself is you can actually see when they deleted the vent on these, they actually didn't do anything to the mold that makes them except remove the hole. So there's this nice flat area to put it there. And my suspicion is that most cans on the market probably still have one of these flats on it. And in fact, you can still buy these Blitz style cans from another manufacturer that are still being made with the same molds now. So that's where we want to put our vent, because we've got that nice flat surface to work with. And the first thing I'm probably going to do is just take a file and knock that flashing rib down so we can get a nice seal when we go to push that in. It's just easier to do that now before there's a hole in it, and it's also better to do it before there's a hole in it so we don't get all those plastic pieces in our gas can. So I knocked that down nice and smooth. I actually took to it a little bit with a razor blade before I did anything. I started at it with a fairly large file here, but it was just chewing up the sides of the can pretty needlessly. So I switched over to one of these small little precision files like I mentioned on my 10 gifts for men list, and that just did a really nice job, just took right to it. So that's all nice and smooth now. Now we're ready to drill our hole. So I've got our 1/8" pilot bit in here, and we don't really need to pilot this for a practical reason. I'm just using a smaller bit because I just want to get it nice and centered up and make it look as nice as we can. But watch, I'll screw it all up now. That's about as good as I can do. There we go. I don't know, guys. Looks like I actually got pretty close. So let's size up to our bigger bit now. I've discovered it's helpful in the video making process if you actually hit record on the camera before you begin. Just pop the next size larger hole in it, and I can see why they wanted us to use a paddle bit for that. That's because there's kind of a ridge of excess plastic inside there. I don't think it's really going to hurt anything at all, but we'll try and take a pick or something and dig that out of there all the same. But before we bother with doing that, let's see if we got even close at all on our sizing. We might just have to step right up anyway. Yeah, the lead in on that doesn't really even want to start in the hole. So let's get a 1/2" bit and open her on up, and then we'll clean it up, and then we'll jam it in. So I got my 1/2" bit, and something I said before the camera was recording last time is I tried to just take it kind of easy with it, and I think that was a mistake. I think I'm better off to just hit it full speed, full force, and just send it, and I think it'll give us a better hole. So I'm actually going to try and get the drill spinning up before I get in the hole, and we'll see how it goes. Because this drill's not variable speed. And it's in reverse right now. Yeah, that actually did give us a little cleaner cut, I think. Try and clean it up just a little more. It's cold out here. Let's finish this up in the shop. And that's what we ended up with. I'm just going to take a razor knife here and kind of kick this thing on its side, hoping to keep stuff out of the can, and just see if I can trim some of that off. It looks like I'll be able to. You guys get the idea. I need to do this kind of with it on my knee, or I'll dump stuff in that hole. So I've got all the flash on the outside of this cleaned up. Now I'm just going to take my picks and see if I can reach in the hole and kind of pull the extra crack from inside the hole to the outside. And again, this is one of those things where I'm actually going to be holding this over my head so the plastic falls out of the hole, so I won't really be able to film it. But another good example of stuff on that Christmas items or gift items list that I really do use all the time. Small picks, they're great. And that's about all the better I can get it. It's really not too bad. I also don't hear any plastic chunkies rattling around inside there, which is good. But just to play it safe, I'm going to go blow this thing out with compressed air probably through that hole and hope that any big chunkies come out of the big hole. So it's all blown out. I didn't see one chunky come out of it. I don't hear anything rattling, so I think it's safe to assume there aren't any chunkies, which is good. And that's how our little cap fits. You can see it's now engaging that lead-in chamfer on the end of it really nicely. But before we stick it in there, I'm going to go ahead and put a little RTV around the outside of it, just to make sure that we don't have any leaks from it later on. Just playing it safe, why not? When I do that, I really don't want to get RTV like in the hole or anything. So I'm probably going to just sort of aim high. I don't need a ton either. And then I'll just spread that with my finger. So that's actually a way sloppier job than I wanted to do. That's all right. Now the next critical element in this is going to be making sure that I get the little tabs perfectly aligned between these two otherwise identical cans, or it'll drive me insane for the rest of my life. You know, it's the important stuff like that. I believe our final installation tool is just going to be a soft mallet here, and just give it a couple light taps. And while the microphone was on the floor, I said, you can see there's a nice little bead of RTV around there. So that's good. That means the RTV is doing the job we hired it to do. I'm going to put on a fresh glove and get a paper towel and clean off the excess. And there we go. I think we did okay at making them a twin. This one's actually a little cleaner job because, as I recall, I was in a hurry with that one. So the last thing we need to do to revoke the U.S. citizenship of our gas can and make it for export only from here on, so this gas can will only be used in Honduras or Guatemala or whatever in the future, is we want to take our flush cutters and cut this stupid little locking tab off, because it's really annoying to deal with. There we go. Locking tab's gone. I'm going to take a file and clean that up a little bit. And if you didn't know what that was for, there's a little locking barb on the can itself that engages that, and it doesn't actually lock it. You could turn this thing like a half turn anyway, so all it is it makes it annoying to get the thing on and off. So now it is significantly less annoying to get on and off. So basically, I have now fully restored this gas can back to the condition of a can that you would have found in, I don't know, 1995, which I still own gas cans from that era too. And we've also restored it to the condition of nations whose governments have better things to do than worry about gas cans. That's all there really is to it. I made this 5 times more of a project than it needed to be because that is what I specialize in, but that's it. That is how you make for export only, never to be used in the United States again, gas can, or convert your gas can to a water can, if you're brave enough to drink water out of it. I'd almost forgotten that I promised to tell you guys the story of the Blitz gas cans, if you stuck around to the end. You guys have all seen this before on probably every gas can, I'm going to guess since 1970. Extremely flammable, vapors can explode, harmful or fatal if swallowed, keep out of reach of children or use by children. Never use gas to start a fire. This one becomes important later in our story. Carefully read all instructions on all sides. They're the same on both sides, spoiler alert. Keep away from heat sources, also important to our story. So the reason why these guys went out of business is because a team of 3 scumbag attorneys started representing clients who had used Blitz gas cans to pour gas on an open fire. I remember reading a story about one guy in particular who took a full 5-gallon can and walked it up to an open burning bush fire and just dumped it on there. How do you think that worked out for him? It went incredibly poorly. The guy burned, I think like 80% of his body or whatever, burned half his face off. Exactly the kind of thing that should happen to some dumbass that does something like that. He successfully sued the Blitz company, and I think a few other people did as well, and made it to the point that they could no longer afford to carry liability insurance to manufacture their products, so they went out of business. I'm not sure what date this company began, but they began their manufacturing career manufacturing steel jerry cans for the U.S. military. So these guys went way back. But as a consequence of them going out of business, other companies have since bought the molds to these cans, and for a while I think Shilton owned them, and I believe Shilton is now out of business for the same reason, and now these molds, it looks like a company called Midwest might own them. So who knows, these cans are still around in many forms. They made them for ages. One thing about that is, when I bought these cans in particular, I bought these probably 10 or 15 years ago at this point. These things were like 40 bucks a piece, because while all that stuff was going on, these guys had to pay their insurance premiums. So their insurance premiums all skyrocketed because of morons in the world. Here's another story of, scumbag lawyers combined with bad courts come to an absolutely foolish decision and run a good company out of business. So there's the story of Blitz gas cans and why you can't buy these anymore. But if you happen to have one, I've now shown you how to restore the freedom to it. As always, guys, appreciate you stopping by. We'll catch you on the next one. I'm Max, that's Saddington Bear, and we make videos like this all the time. Here are a couple links to some other videos we've made, and we really appreciate you guys stopping in.